Hi guys, it's Ankita. Welcome to Enchanted Bookends. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. And if you're just popping by, welcome to you as well. This is the last video of the year, so I do want to thank everyone who has been here throughout the year, or whether you are a new subscriber. I am really grateful for you being here. And I want to close this year on a high, so I'm going to talk about all the books that I loved reading this year, and it has been a great year. I realized that this morning when I made this list, and there are 16 books on the list, so let's get cracking. And these books are in no particular order because there was no way I was going to be able to rank these books because they're all from different genres, and some of them are better in one ways than the other, so there's no way I could compare them. But if there was to be a ranking, this book would definitely be in my top 3, and that is Precious Pain by Mary Webb. This, first and foremost, absolutely stunning cover, and I'm gonna be honest, I bought this because of the cover. Mary Webb is the most underrated classic author. She wrote in the early 20th century, and for some reason she only gained fame after her death. So posthumously her books have become very popular, and still I think they're not as popular as they need to be. Anyway, this is a book set in Shropshire in a farming community. We follow a brother and a sister. This is full of Shropshire farming traditions, folk songs. It is just teeming with so much culture, which I'm not sure if it is still alive or not, but I was so happy to get a glimpse into it. And not only do we get this, but we also get the beautiful imagery of the Shropshire countryside. I think her description of the nature is very similar to Hardy's description of nature. If you don't know, Thomas Hardy is known for nature writing, and I think Mary Webb has very beautifully captured the Shropshire countryside in this story. But not only do we get all of this, we also have a really heartbreaking and a heartwarming story. So yes, this was the highlight of the year. Really surprised me, made me cry, made me so happy to read about these amazing traditions, which I hope are still alive. Next one, if you have been long enough on my channel, you might not be surprised that I have this book on the list, but that is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Now, this is one of the books that was really intellectually stimulating. I was expecting to be in a very dark place when I read this book. I will admit it was quite a headache to follow this character who thinks he is superior to everyone. He commits a crime and then he tries to justify it to himself, and yeah, we just see him unraveling. But at the same time, this also very clearly makes you think about, is everything black and white, or there's an in-between? He says that there are people who have killed so many people or are responsible for the deaths of so many people, and we still sort of worship them and praise them. We have statues of them everywhere. But then when this guy has committed a murder of who he thinks does not deserve to live, it's a completely different game. So yeah, it does make you question what is right and what is wrong. Are we all hypocrites? Very good book. What I will say is that I love the ending. I absolutely love the ending. In fact, there is so much to love in this book. There is this main character's darkness. There is a very light character as well, very bright. Every scene in this book is really good, and it serves a purpose. Very philosophical, intellectually stimulating. Highly recommend Crime and Punishment. Next one I have on my list is Death of a Naturalist by Seamus Heaney. I bought this collection a few years ago when I first read Seamus Heaney's Human Chain collection, and I didn't finish it, but the poems did leave an impression on me, and I knew I wanted to check out more books by him. This collection focuses on him, on his upbringing, on his life on the farm. His parents, his grandparents, they were all farmers. He decided to get away from farming. And in the first poem in this book, he says that his tool is going to be a pen and he's going to keep on digging. And my, the way he keeps on digging through the entire collection is absolutely amazing. I was a little bit thrown off when suddenly poems about his marriage come up. They are excellent, no doubt. I was just surprised that they were put in this collection, and I'm not sure if that's how it was meant to be. But again, I do think that every word that Seamus Heaney chose to put in his poems meant a lot. So a lot of thought went into it, and it all works. There's a very good rhythm to it, the sound. Everything in his poetry is excellent. There's actually a website which I found which really helped me understand each of his poem, and I'll put a link to that website in the description down below. But yes, if you're looking for a really good inspiring poetry with lots of rat imagery, lots of imagery of the farm. So I think those were all the classics I had on my list. We'll move on to just litfic maybe. Let's move on to litfic. The first one that I have, again, these are in no particular order, O William by Elizabeth Strout. Now, Elizabeth Strout has been around for a while. All of her books are so popular. The one that I've been hearing for years is Olive Catteridge, and then there's Olive again, and so many of her books are out there, and I've never ever read one of her books except for this year. I read this one, O William. Didn't realize it's the third book in a series, but it didn't really bother me. I was still able to like this book, appreciate it, and this is about a character named Lucy, and Lucy has a Lucy's ex-husband William is a presence in her life that is larger than life, and she feels like he still, despite so many years of being apart, has some hold on her. And when William and Lucy go on kind of a quest, right, she slowly feels this hold on her loosening, and finally towards the end of the book she is sort of free. I do remember the last scene of this book was very moving. The way this story is told, all the while Lucy is saying, "Oh William," right? I as a reader was going like, "Oh Lucy." I don't think I've ever cried for a character as much as I have for her. I recall reading this book on my commute, and I was teary-eyed, and I had to close it because I didn't want to be crying on the train. But again, Oh William, I love the book cover too. It's so stunning. Really, really recommend it. In fact, I loved it so much, I bought the first book in the series where the author introduces Lucy Barton, and that is my name, is Lucy Barton. I'm looking forward to reading this. Next up we have The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. Love the cover. This was another smashing read, such a thrilling read. It's a story of a family who is going through financial crisis this is set in Ireland. And we follow each of the member of the family, and we just again see them unraveling. We see them find themselves. We see them learning so much about each others. But this is a tragic comedy. I think this book features some of the best writing that I've come across. It is hilarious that in this grim story, the author was able to make me chuckle at times, and again the warmth and the compassion with which the story is told, and also that very unique ability that Irish authors have of turning a tragedy into sort of a comedy was very, very evident in this book. I will say the ending is a bit ambiguous, and that's why I loved it, because it's so much more than about the ending, but also about the journey. Yeah, I did a full review of this book. If you want to know more about it, check out that review. But yeah, I would forever recommend The Bee Sting. It's quite a big book, and I think I described it as a brick of gold. That's what this is. It's absolutely marvelous storytelling. Next one we have is The Adversary by Michael Crummy. Again, if you've been here, you might not be surprised to see this book on the list. I think this will definitely make the top 3 of my of the books I've read this year. This is a historical fiction set in Newfoundland, I think in the early 19th century, where we follow two powerful families and two powerful families that have a rivalry, and we see the tension building and building and building. And the other day I was thinking about this and I was like, this is like a crescendo. This entire book felt like a crescendo. The tension builds and builds and builds, and you know it's gonna explode. You just don't know what is gonna happen, who's gonna survive, and how it all is gonna end. I think one of the most entertaining, but do remember that this is quite dark entertainment. It's dark humor, but at the same time it is entertaining. Excellent story writing, not a very big book. So this is a perfect example of how you can tell a really good, powerful story in just a few words. So yes, The Adversary by Michael Crumey. Next one I have is Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Leonard. This is a debut book, and I think it won the Waterstones debut award, believe last year. I couldn't believe that this is a debut, and I couldn't believe that I haven't reviewed this book on my channel. And one of the reasons why was because I didn't know how to say this word. Is it Syracuse? I'm not sure. Anyway, this is set in the 412 BC. This is perfect for readers of Greek tragedy who love the patterns of a Greek tragedy, right? This is excellent for those. What stands out for this story is that it's told in an modern Irish voice, and that's what makes it really funny. Again, a very dark story, but it also has so much warmth. It's a story of love, compassion. It's a story of artists and how they think, their thought process. It is just a story of life. It's a story of life. We follow two characters in this. There are two potters who are unemployed because of a war, and they are Syracusans. And then they have prisoners of war, and these prisoners of war are Athenians. They are just left in a quarry to die. These two unemployed potters that we follow are big fans of Greek poetry, of Greek drama and epics, and so they decide that they have nothing to do, but they're going to put on a play, a theater, right? Now, to put on a theater, they do need players, they need actors. Okay, where can they get actors? They're unemployed, don't have money. How are they going to recruit actors? What they do have is food. So they go to this quarry and they recruit these starving Athenians to perform in in a Greek play. And Athenians will do anything, right? They're starving essentially. For a few olives, a little bit of bread, they are willing to do anything. And so even though they are emaciated, even though they are starving and completely skinny and just trying to survive in this really hot sun in a quarry without any shade, they somehow, participate in this theater. This is a very good book for artists. If you have ever worked in theater, this is a really, really good book. I have so much praise for this. You will love this book, Glorious Exploits. Oh, one book that I forgot to talk about, and it's a classic, is A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. This is a very short book that I read this summer, and it was so perfect. This book is just nostalgia captured on pages. This is a very short book set in Yorkshire after the Second World War. Is it Second World War? Might be. Oh my gosh, I just saw a bald eagle. Oh my gosh, he flew out of my view, but I'm gonna take a moment. Okay, where was I? Yeah, this is about a guy. This is set after the Second World War in Yorkshire, where our protagonist, who is a restorer of art, is invited or hired by a clergyman to restore an art piece in the church. When he reaches his site of assignment, he soon finds out that he has been reluctantly hired. Nobody really appreciates art in that village. He finds out there's also an archaeologist who has been hired to recover bones of an ancestor. It's a really quirky story, but also very heartwarming, because our main character at the beginning, has returned from the war and he has PTSD, and through this assignment he somewhat heals. And the ending is so beautiful. What I really loved about this is the narration. It's told in the past tense, so when the character is telling his story, he is quite grown, and so it's very nostalgic. It's just nostalgia on paper, and very, very beautiful short story. Okay, the next one that I have is Mariana by Susanna Kearsley. This is a historical fiction, sort of a historical fiction, I would say. In Kearsley's story, you always get two stories in one. One is in present and one is in the past, and in a very beautiful, dreamy way, the past and present always meet. This is a story of a woman who is always drawn to an old house, and when she inherits some money, she buys this house, and when she buys it, she starts seeing things that she thinks are not there. And soon she learns who this man on a gray horse is, and it is such a dreamy love story. So beautiful, very romantic, and that's all I have to say about this book. If you haven't read Susanna Kearsley, start with this book. All right, next one we have is A Consequence of Power by Sabrina Lind. This is another historical fiction. We follow a young woman as she enters the London society to look for a husband, and she comes across this pocketbook, and she doesn't realize that that pocketbook belongs to a secret society made up of really powerful people. She doesn't really understand the importance of it, and so events unfold, and I really appreciated the writing in this. The opening scene is of our protagonist walking through a meadow full of wildflowers. To me, there's nothing more beautiful than that. It's so beautifully described. And the ending of this book, it leaves you with so many thoughts. You don't know what's gonna happen next, but I absolutely love the beginning and the ending, and the writing style, how it sort of morphs from this Jane Austen-esque writing to this sort of like wistful writing. I really enjoyed this book, Consequence of Power by Sabrina Lind. The next one I have on the list is The Watcher by Lisa Voisin. This is for those of you who love the Twilight vibes but do not want to reread Twilight, because let's be honest, the writing is a bit rusty. This one, the writing is so good, and I love all the paranormal elements in this. There's an angel, a fallen angel, and there's our protagonist, and they've known each other in the past life, and I don't want to say anything more than that because then I'll be giving away spoilers. But if you want really good writing with a swoon-worthy male main character, then this is a book for you. I thoroughly enjoyed the vibes. Next up is Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry. Sebastian Barry is a big name in literary world, but this is the first book that I read by him. And while I started reading it, I thought his writing style was not for me. But I'm so glad I stuck with it. In this book, we follow a retired detective sergeant who, after 9 months of retirement, finds someone knocking at his door. When he opens his door, he finds two detectives from his office, where he previously used to work, standing there with, they're there to ask him about a case that he previously worked on. And this brings back a lot of memories, a lot of things, and this is what the book is really about. It's about memories, and Old God's Time means time before memory, right? And just to remember this is a very emotional book. I was just sobbing, weeping, like there's no tomorrow. If I would categorize this book, I would put it in horror, because it really talks about old age. It talks about a detective sergeant who has had a difficult life and is now alone. It just played on every fear that I have, and to me this book was horrific. The way it's written is beautiful. The way the story is told is just uncomparable, and to me it was a book that I'm glad I read. Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry. Okay, the next book that I have is Five Little Indians by Michelle Good. I would say is a is a very important book for all of us to read. It's about 5 individuals belonging to the First Nations. That it's about individuals who were taken away from their families when they were young, because that is what happened to the children of the people of the First Nations. And this one is set in Vancouver. And we follow these 5 individuals as they get out of the school and how their time at those residential schools impacts their entire life, and how it sort of decides the trajectory of their lives. It's a very humbling read, but it is also important to acknowledge that this is what has happened, and there are still families living through the consequences of the residential school program. So yes, very important read. If there's one book that you should be reading from my entire list, then that is this one. In lighter reads, the first one that I loved is Miss Bunkle's book by D.E. Stevenson. I think this is the book that I enjoyed the most. It is such a it's basically a brainless read. It is a brainless read, but at the same time, you do have to appreciate the genius of D.E. Stevenson, who has written about a protagonist who is going through financial crisis. She lives in a village somewhere in England, and she's going through a financial crisis. So to overcome that, she decides to write a book. Now, she thinks she lacks imagination, so what she does is all of her characters in the books are based on the people that live around her. So in her village, right, anyone and everyone she knows in the village, she portrays them exactly as they are in that book. And she never thought that her book would become a bestseller, but it does. And then people in her village start reading her book, and they recognize themselves in the book. And some of them are horrified because nobody likes to know what they are like from someone else's perspective, especially if they're horrid. So yeah, this is such a fun read. And so events unfold after that in the village, and it's a really lovely story of Miss Bunkle and the villagers. Lovely fun read. Next one is The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. I'm not a fan of contemporary romance, but I do love a cute romance, and that is exactly what this is. This is so much fun. I listened to the audiobook for this one, and it was just perfect. It's set in London. It's about a woman who dies and goes to a waiting room where she's going to be assessed, and while she is being assessed, she meets a man there in the waiting room. It's before her afterlife, right? There's a waiting room for the afterlife. She meets a man of her dreams there. So what happens is that her love of her life is sort of revived, and he goes back to Earth, but she's left in the waiting room. So she kind of makes a deal with the sort of I think therapist there, and she's like, send me to Earth. And so the therapist gives her like limited days to go back to Earth to find the love of her life. So The Love of My Afterlife I love the concept, but I also love the execution of the story. It's just a very fun read. Okay, so the last book that I have on my list is a book that I have not yet finished, but I'm going to finish it before the end of the year, and that is The Loneliness of Sonia. And that is The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kiran Desai. This one was on the Booker list, long list, and then it made the short list. Didn't win the Booker Prize, but the author has already won a Booker Prize for a previous book. Anyway, I wanted to read this when I read the description of the book, and it's essentially a story of Sonia and Sunny, who are two Indians who moved to the US for their education. And Sonia clearly suffers from seasonal depression. She's in Vermont. She feels absolutely lonely, but then her parents and family back in India cannot really understand why she is lonely, why she's feeling lonely when she has such luxuries in Vermont. then unable to fathom the concept of depression is what I'm saying. And then we have Sunny, who is a journalist who writes for the AP. He is sort of like a beginner in journalism, so we see his struggle. He has a girlfriend here but doesn't want to introduce her to his family. And then it's not only a story of these two people, but it's also a story of their families back in India. So I think this author sort of captures the lives of a generation where the parents are in the home country and the children are abroad, and how they manage their lives, and how Sunny struggles with feeling not fully Indian and not fully American either. So he's sort of like in a limbo, ostracized by both cultures, somewhere in between. What I really loved about this book, and I'm loving still that I'm reading, is the little observations that hold so much, are things that I hadn't really thought of but did. As a person of Indian origin, it really stood out to me. And I was thinking if this is a book that, you know, Western audience would appreciate. I wasn't really sure about it, but this book has made every list this year, every list. So I also heard Anne Patchett talking about this on some channel, and so I guess it's also for the Western audience. But again, a very long book. It's an epic. So yeah, those are all the books that I enjoyed reading in 2025. Now I've selected the best of the best. There are other books that I've enjoyed too. Do let me know which one was your favorite book or books, even if it's a long list. Do let me know in the comments down below. I would absolutely love to know. And once again, thank you for being here, and happy holidays to you all, and a happy new year. Thank you for being here. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I have some changes coming up in the new year, and I will also reflect back on this reading year, which was a little bit different for me than my previous reading years. So yeah, do subscribe and like this video, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye bye.